Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome to a Tennis Manager 2023 tutorial on managing your schedule of your athletes. This tutorial is going to come with the comprehensive variables that will serve your athletes best, as you have young up-and-comers, you have athletes for the future, you have athletes for the here and now, you have superstars. Dependent on where they stand, those variables will change the schedule, and we're going to take a look at each of those options as we go through. To determine which schedule is necessary for your athlete, there's really only three things that you're going to need to look at to make that decision. One, their age. Two, their progress type, their style. So in this case, the athlete we are looking at is the one from my Let's Play series. This is Clarice Thurman. She is 17 years of age currently, and she is an early bloomer. As an early bloomer, as a 17-year-old right now, her development is at its best during this phase of her career. If you're outside of that element, you might not want to train as much, but as she develops best now, I want her to be able to train as much as possible. But to determine whether I can do that, I need to know this third element. The third element is their goals and their satisfaction regarding those goals. You have to achieve your goals. If not, you're going to lose your athletes. They're going to get upset and they're going to want to leave and might force an early exit. Therefore, achieving their goals is important. So it's only the 5th of May in my game, but she is all the way up to 121st in the senior rankings. We only have pro circuit goals this year. She's 121st. Her goal was to get into the top 500. We have a slam dunk in this department. I could sit out the entire rest of the year and still have achieved that goal. Likewise, from the other three goals that we have, there is no threat to any of those goals. So I could theoretically shut it down. I could literally sit out the entire rest of this season and do nothing but train every single week. I could cancel all future tournaments and just train because she's at her peak development and I will not impact her goals. Those are the three things you need to take into account. From there, that takes you into tournament registration, where you're going to make all the decisions you need on how to work out your schedule. Here, you have a nice selection of variables that you could change to just see what it is you want and or need to see. First off, automatic registrations is handy. It's a useful tool, especially if you have a lot of athletes and you don't bother or don't want to bother micromanaging them. But this is where the magic happens in terms of rapid growth or fixing their rankings, achieving their goals, taking care of the things that you need to, those three primary areas, and subsequently development. If you want to manage those, if you want to see those at their best, you are going to need to keep automatic registration off and then go from there. Now, this is World Tour, this is Junior Tour, doesn't matter whether it's boys, girls, it's going to come out to be the same. I've never bothered to use recommended. I have no idea which ones they would put us in, but I would imagine it would get us in the same sort of territory. If you are in between, if you are a junior who's playing some seniors, tick both boxes. It'll show them both at the same time. Then pick a range. It makes it so much easier to go in and organize your schedule by limiting the range that you're seeing. Top end being that World Tour, bottom end being that Junior Tour, at least when I'm looking at both. All you need is one of those tours if you are completely on the senior or completely on the junior circuit. But we're not going for Grand Slams. We're not there yet. We're still outside of the top 100. Still a 17-year-old who's just jumped in the rankings from about 400 to just outside of the top 100 in the last couple tournaments, winning, but much smaller level tournaments, and we are not ready to play big-time competitors yet. So if we are choosing tournaments, we need to be choosing something on the smaller end of the senior circuit. So let's say we pick a high-end range. The biggest tournament I would want to put Thurman in might be a 100 level. Then for the bottom end, I don't need the smallest junior level tournaments. We're well beyond that stage. In fact, we have no junior level goals as it is, but we've never won anything smaller than a 300 or bigger than a 300 at the juniors. And I'm still interested in that possibility. Also, there's a lot of tournaments that have qualifiers out there. I'm past the phase of needing qualifiers or wanting to go have to participate in them, so I could turn qualifications off, shrink this thing down further. Once you've selected all of this, and if you have other choices like choosing just one surface because you specialize in one, that's all possibility. Open, in progress, close, you could deselect so many things to get down to a very small refined list. But usually by this point, I'm happy with these filters setting me up nicely. The last thing, once I've selected all those filters, is I use this button to go straight to the week that we are on right now. That saves you some time. It sets you up right to the point of the list where you want to be at. We are already training this week. We have this week off. I want to be training as much as possible. Theoretically, I could, at this point, as I was saying, ditch all of our tournaments the rest of the year and just train and make a ton of progress. See our rank fall down a bit, which isn't a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because the higher your rank is, the higher the expectations are going to be. And if you're playing over your head, which we've done lately, we've been phenomenal, won some tournaments, picked up a ton of points. Well, next year we're going to expect more. And if we don't develop properly, if we don't develop enough, we're going to find ourselves having a really hard time achieving our goals next season. So I really would like to see our rank fall down. But in theory, let's assume that we still, as a 17-year-old on high development right now with plenty of room for growth left in her, we want to maybe set our goals as, let's try to win a junior Grand Slam. Senior tournament, we're done. So why don't we go ahead and refilter this down to a junior Grand Slam only. In fact, I could completely uncheck. Well, I need to see what I'm signed up for currently, so we'll leave that checked. But in terms of selection, junior Grand Slam will be just the high end. And let's reset again to week 19, which falls into that trap. That's why it's showing up here. So, okay, now I have a clear, concise picture. I want to train as much as possible. I want to be able to perform at the junior Grand Slams, which means I need to keep an eye on three things at this point. I need to keep an eye on our morale. I need to keep an eye on our match condition, our match shape, and our physical condition. We want to enter each tournament near peak fitness and good form and happy. Happy means wins. Form is going to come down to participating in enough tournaments frequently enough to remain in good match shape. And the physical condition is going to be a combination of how much you're doing in terms of activity in the tournaments, but also how busy you are in your training in the build-up to each tournament. When you're training, that can be as low as possible. It's fine. It's not going to impact you. When you get to the point where you have a tournament, you want to close in on that close to 100% or at 100%. The match shape is the important one here. If our goal is junior slams, that's what we're going to need to look at. And we have a junior slam grass season week 24 coming up, 5 weeks away. Right now it's not showing any other tournaments, but I also eliminated from sight our senior tournaments. So going back for a second, week 19, nothing. Week 20, still nothing showing up, but that's also because I only have 500 and above. If I add in the 300s, this might look a little bit different. There we go. Week 20, I'm already signed up for a 300 level. That'll help keep our shape high. It's already maxed out. We have 1 week off for training, and then we have a 300 level the following week. We then have 1 week off. There's our Grand Slam. Now what that's going to do is that's going to keep our shape very high. 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. We'll always maintain a high shape. You can, for a while, get away with 2 weeks off, 1 week on, 2 weeks off, 1 week on, and still maintain good shape. After a while, it's going to deteriorate a little bit from that style, but it's still going to keep it good. And that's going to allow for a lot of extra training. So 2 off, 1 on is a pretty good ratio for a young developing athlete. And if I could, I would change this to take this one off, get some other tournament here, and then take this one off and do that. But it's too late to alter the schedule. But at least I've already excluded myself from those senior tournaments. I'm afraid of our ranking right now. But there's the Junior Grand Slam. What about going forward? Because once I get beyond there, I enter a new phase where registrations are available to me. And I have not registered. Oh, maybe I have. In fact, here we go. We got a 300 level. This is a time where I might want to change up what it is we are doing on our calendar from this point going forward. Week 25, blank. Week 26, blank. Week 27, 300 level. But there is no other junior tournaments in this range that I can pick up to help us out. And then we enter our next Junior Grand Slam, the Wimbledon Junior, 2 weeks later. That's actually a perfect scenario, right? We're getting the best training we can get in. We've got the best junior level tournament we can have 2 weeks before we have a Grand Slam to maintain high shape. That's going to do the most that it can to set us up nicely going forward. Following that, we can't register yet, but if we could, here's what we would do. Still nothing, still nothing. I would want to have some sort of tournament here, but there's no seniors available. That's 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row with no options, which means you would need to take this last one. Sign up here. So you'd have a 1 off after the slam, then 1, then you have 2 weeks off, and then you have an option for another. The reason for doing that is to keep never more than 2 weeks in a row open. If you get to 3 weeks in a row open, you're going to see your shape drop off significantly, and we want to maintain that for performance. There's a Junior 500, the World Cup, which we would definitely be a participant in for the U.S. as we are one of the top couple U.S. players in the junior rankings. And that sets you up for both your U.S. Open Junior and that World Cup at the end of the season. From there, your season's done. There's nothing left that you need to bother with after that, besides the U.S. The World Cup finals but that's just the seniors, right? I don't think that does include juniors. So we would want to get back in shape again somewhere around probably this Junior 500 just before the end, and maybe one more right there. As much as possible, you want to keep weeks open when you want to grow, when you want to develop. Never more than a couple weeks off, otherwise you're going to see their shape drop. And for me right now, for this particular athlete, we want to keep her training. But now what do we do in those weeks in between? Nice thing is the game gives you inbox messages to let you know that you have your training program coming up to go in and alter it. There's going to be a varied prescribed program that the AI is setting up for you, but it keeps your workload on a neutral medium. When your workload is on a neutral medium, it's going to recover physical fitness, physical condition quite quickly, more quickly than is necessary. So you can and should add extra training when and where possible. We have a tournament in 7 days. We're only at 85%. So to get that where I want it to be for the next tournament, I don't want to add in much. I usually pick this slot. Why? I don't know. Doesn't matter. You could use any slot you want. I don't think it actually makes a difference. It's about the workload over the week itself on how this impacts things. But I generally pick this particular slot as it makes sense to add a little bit more into the middle of your week. But I choose to take extra training. I like the generic training that is offered. Reason being, if you don't train something for too long, it will decrease. Having the generic training, having the AI prescribed training will lead to natural development. It will keep you from having that deterioration kick in, and it makes life just generally easier for you. But having some specialized training will make life much easier to see particular gains where you want them to be, to shape your athletes where you want them to be their strongest. To know what to do, you need to go into reports. You can just simply do it from the overview if you want. I prefer reports. Going into reports, you get the added bonus not only of seeing what the attribute currently is at, but seeing what their progress is. It's fine narratively to just develop something as you see fit, as you want to make gains. You can opt to cheese the system a little bit. Take the ones like a lob that's at 97%. One session is going to see that attribute increase. One session of smash will see you get that 0.02% you need to get the next attribute point. One session is probably enough for hotshots, especially when it's only a 6. So 3 specialized sessions for lob, smash, and hotshots would see all 3 of those gain. Every once in a while, I see fit to make use of that. I don't do it generally, but every once in a while I will. Serve accuracy. I love some serve accuracy. I hate double faults, personally. Play style, just coach-wise. I coach multiple sports in real life. I hate to see unforced mistakes. So serve accuracy is a big thing for me. Right now it's only at 73%. However, when this gets up to about 90% naturally, I'll spend one session to see that hit a 14 because I care about serve accuracy. So when it's close, I'll be like, oh, come on, I can't sit and let that wait 2 months to get a training session to get to that next level. I'm going to spend a training session to make sure that that happens. But I'm not going to always cheese that system. I'm not going to train reflexes right now, even though it's close, because it's already where I want it to be. Right now, I'm in-game trying to get everything to 13s, and I'm focusing on footwork, balance, and agility. And I will take whichever one's closest to push it, more often than not. But with that, my target is agility. So I'm going to go over to training, and I'm going to choose my empty slot. I'm not going to change the ones that are already here unless I'm really desperate to make progress on a specific thing. I'll change 1 or 2 of them, but I like to stretch our workload to what I can get and still have us prepared. And therefore it's add, not replace. In this case, we're going to add agility. So I'm going to go physical, and I'm going to find our best agility training that we have. At this point, we don't have much unlocked, so I really actually don't have any good agility training. You get mild training across many different avenues, ultimately adds up to helping it progress, but there is no specialized agility training available to me right now. So what I'm going to end up picking is going to depend on 2 factors. Right now, I'm at 85%, and I have a tournament in a week. I'd like to see us get to 100%. I don't want to overdo the training. I could do 1 heavy training in some other department, keeps us at a medium. That should see us get to 100%. Or I could do 2 lighter trainings, see it push up a little bit, and still probably just about get to 100%. But I could not add 2 heavies. That would make our training load way too much. I would probably be right about an 85 or maybe even just below that next week by adding 2 heavies. That's too much training. The weight of the training does matter, or the intensity of the training does make a difference. A heavy and a medium, even though there's agility here, is still too much. It would see this increase a little bit. I'd probably be at about 88, 89% next week, but that's still too much. 2 mediums, better yet, I would definitely see this above a 90, and that would be tolerable entering the next tournament. And under the circumstances, I'd probably be accepting of that. But that's still a little too heavy on the training. I don't mind having 2 training sessions. 1 heavy would be fine. That would see us push well into the 90s. I'm going to try to go with a medium and a light. There's nothing left in the physical, but there are some technical ones that do help with the agility and are light. I can go the half volley, and that's going to ease off that training a little bit better, and it should see us at about a 95% or better, even though I have pushed into a heavy workload. So a few key summaries. 1, know the age and the style to know who you need to focus on development and who you can focus more on tournament and ranking, especially if they are in need. The need coming down to relevance of goals. How close are they to achieving their goals for the year? They don't need to be 100% to have a good, happy, successful year. We can totally ignore this 4th goal and it won't be a bother at the end of the season. We're at 75% already. She will be happy. She will be perfectly content with that. We will enter next season quite pleased. When registering, take care of all your filters. know the range. What depends on what tournament you sign up for is going to really come down to knowing your athlete, knowing how good they are and where they can be competitive. And here's the thing about the competitive part. If they only win one tournament, one match out of every 4 or 5, if their win percentage is low, they are not going to be happy and they're not going to be achieving their goals. And therefore, they're going to have a pretty poor run of things, and things are not going to go well for you. You do need to win on a regular basis to keep them happy. Winning every tournament, 100% win rates aren't good for you either. They're not going to progress. They're not going to pick up enough points, and eventually you're going to run into problems, and you're probably going to get bored with the game if you're winning literally everything. A great win percentage is 75 to 80%. A good win percentage is 60% or better. You want them to be somewhere in that 60 to 80% range, preferably 70 or better. If you're doing that, if they are winning at about 70% rate, then they are competitive tournament after tournament after tournament. They're winning 3 rounds and losing in the 4th, late in a tournament. They lose occasionally in the first round, but then they occasionally win a tournament. That progression style is going to keep them achieving points. It's going to keep their morale high. It's going to keep their shape fairly good most of the time. Those early exits, losing in the first round, really hurt your shape. You've got to keep a fairly steady rate of wins to keep everything going right on this upper corner in a positive manner. And therefore, select tournaments kind of on a level. And if you start to win some tournaments on that level, bump them up a level. Try that next level. If they're getting blown out, losing in the first, second round, drop it back down, get a few more wins, and occasionally mix it in with that upper level until they start getting more competitive. If they are competitive and they start winning at that level, same thing. Take it up another box. And at some stage, you've got juniors that are going to start mixing into that senior level. Balancing the two is going to depend on their goals and your goals for them and how you want to go with that. I've been focusing on senior this year because they didn't care about juniors anymore, so I focused on seniors, but now I've achieved those goals, so I am switching them back to the juniors. I can bump their rank down a little bit so their expectations aren't so absurd next year, and meanwhile, I can go and achieve those goals that I wanted in the juniors. She's never won any big tournaments in the juniors. I want her to, so therefore I'm going to focus on that the rest of the year. Why? Because I can. Because this athlete has achieved her goals. Regardless of competing the rest of the year, she will still have achieved her goals. She's not going to drop that far. Makes sense. And then finally, in training, get the boosts that you can, when you can, by adding extra training to supplement what's already on the schedule. If you want, choose your own schedule from scratch each and every time. You can always have your own training regimen. It's a lot of extra work to do. I recommend doing the supplemental, specializing in certain ways, and getting some general development across the board, focusing on specific attributes at a time, week by week, to get up to a certain level. And once you do that, move on to the next attribute. That's going to do it for this tutorial on scheduling in Tennis Manager 2023. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.